If you do not want to be a part of this Zoom room conversation whatsoever, you can watch the entire thing live on Facebook right now, which many people are doing, and they have their own chat going on over there. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking so that we don't have your background noises. If you would like to talk or ask a question, please raise your hand and then unmute yourself when you're called on, unless, of course, Susan would like some other sort of structure to this. Please use your chat only for study session related questions. If you can use your headphones and an individual microphone, it will improve sound quality and possibly reduce the background echo noises while you're speaking. Please do not type while you're unmuted so we don't hear the clickety-clacks. And please, yes, thank you again for joining this 24-hour experiment that we're doing. It has been wonderful so far as we enter hour 3. So as we transition to the night hours in North and Latin America and into the daylight hours for Australia and Eastern Asia, we'll see hopefully a new batch of commentators, a new batch of a new batch of viewers come and go. So thank you all for coming. Our next presenter is Susan Lyon. Susan and her husband, Rick, who you may have just seen, live in South Bend, Indiana, in the United States. They've been sincere students of the Urantia book since 1978. They found the book independently, and they found friendship many years later because of their shared love for the Revelation. Susan currently assists Scott Brooks as the website manager for the Urantia Association of the United States. She manages her local Glamua subsite and serves as the Glamua membership chair in addition to assisting Rick with their online business, cosmiccreations.biz. More recently, Susan's begun the intensive teacher facilitator training for UBIS and volunteers as one of the newest members of the PIRT team, the Prison Inquiry Response Team. It is this prison ministry project that Susan will focus on for the next hour, with testimonials from inmates who are being inspired and spiritually set free by the compassionate letters and donated Urantia books they are receiving. Susan, the room is yours.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you everyone for being here with me. I have to welcome everyone here. I know it's late for some folks, but I have some of my PIRT team here with me tonight that I'll introduce to you as we go along, and they'll have their chance to speak and tell you some of their experiences with the PIRT program as well. I think this 24-hour event is a great thing, and thank you for allowing us the chance to connect like this. My hubby Rick is here with me, and we're joining you from South Bend, Indiana, as Chris told you. Rick spoke last hour about the benign virus of love. And I'd like to share with you an experience I've had with a project that puts that love into action, just one way. A light of love to shine upon those who sit in darkness and the shadow of death. It seems to be making a real difference in people's lives, the lives of prisoners, proving what we've been told: man shall know the truth, and the truth shall set him free. I'm not sure, but I doubt whether many of our viewers don't know someone who is now or has been incarcerated. If not, I feel sure that they know someone whose family has been deeply affected by a loved one in prison. My family is one of those families. Because I understand the complex nature of the problem and the helplessness that family and friends can feel, I was particularly touched by an article I read by Myra Height in the Tidings newsletter about the work being done on behalf of inmates by volunteers with the PIRT program. PIRT is Urantia Association's Prisoner Inquiry Response Team. I sent a letter to thank Myra for the article and the work she and the others were doing on behalf of inmates. That was a year ago, and a full year since she wrote back to recruit me for the PIRT team. Since that time, I have answered letters from about 60 inmates and shipped many Urantia books to them. Loyalty is the fruit of an intelligent appreciation of universe brotherhood. One could not take so much and give nothing. And that's how I feel about the gift I've received with the Urantia books. So this has been an opportunity to give it back. Love and loyalty are expressed through service. In case you haven't heard the history of PIRT, apparently one reader's efforts to seed the Urantia book into many United States prison libraries turned out to be the catalyst for PIRT to be established. And PIRT is the longest running group of volunteers in Urantia Association International. Liz Craddy was the lady who started it all when she sent out around 300 hardcover books to various prisons. Sometime after Liz's seeding efforts in the prison libraries, Urantia Foundation began receiving letters from inmates asking about the Urantia book. When it became overwhelming, PIRT was formed to relieve the reader services staff from the duty of replying to all of those letters, thus freeing up foundation staff to focus on other equally important business. To this day, inmate letters continue to arrive at 533 Diversity, which are then forwarded on to PIRT for our processing. Since the formation of PIRT in 2004, more than 4,500 inmate letters have been answered and over 2,100 Urantia books have been disseminated to inmates. We have since discovered that the books also make their way to the inmate's family, friends, prison officials, and even the chaplains. When inmates are released, they can take their books with them, but when they're moved between prisons, they don't always get to keep their books. Those books usually end up with other inmates who benefit from them as well. And we've received many letters where the inmates would say that they just read a small piece, that they were broken into pieces and shared between the inmates. Last year, Joy Brandt, Jeanette Schaefer, and Mark Kurtz, who all work on our PIRT team, worked very hard to make sure the second wave of over 150 Urantia books were seeded to more prison libraries all over the United States. Here's an excerpt from an article called Incarcerated and Valued that was published by the PIRT team before I became a member. The Paradise Father God values prisoners just as much as he values all other personalities. This fact is extensively affirmed in the Urantia book and is one we must accept if we truly want to follow Jesus. He visited prisons and ministered to them just as lovingly and patiently as he ministered to anyone else, affirming each prisoner's worth while instilling in them confidence and self-esteem. I think you're going to see with the testimonials that we're going to be reading for you in a little while that very thing is one of the common themes in our letters, that these prisoners are discovering that they're valuable to God and they're worth something. Free and inexperienced intelligence cannot possibly at first be uniformly wise. So I think that these inmates are a perfect example. Many have made mistakes in their youth when they were inexperienced and immature, young, but free will gives us that freedom. Another excerpt from a Tidings article by an inmate, John Zavala Jr., was, though the incarcerated have made mistakes, it is never a mistake to share the Urantia book with them. Minds behind bars really are like diamonds in the rough. All they require is some careful polishing. The Urantia book provides just that. That is why I never fail to share this literary gift with everyone I chance to meet. I'm one of the many examples of what can happen when there is support from an organization like Urantia Association International and the PIRT program. For instance, without the encouragement of the PIRT volunteer, I would not have had the resources to start my study group. We read, study, and memorize important passages. I myself have memorized the entire table of contents, I don't know about you, but I'm impressed with that.
For sure.
Anyway, he wasn't my inmate, but I don't know who worked with him so well, but obviously they did a great job. He says, we quiz each other, we discuss important social issues of the day, and reference the Urantia book for understanding. So a few years ago, PIRT went international, adding Chris Gravel from Canada to the team. Chris has been able to seed Canada's 43 federal prisons over 18 months and has a team of fellow volunteers ready to answer inmate questions when they come in. Also, recently, the Finnish Urantia Association seeded all 26 prisons in their country with Urantia books as well. I don't think we have David Linthicum with us tonight because he has an unstable internet, but we do have Rick Warren with us, and Rick was involved from the very beginning as far as I know. So Rick, would you like to share something of your experience when you were involved at the very beginning with PIRT?
Hi, Susan. Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
You told most of the story. It was back in 2004, and the association was just being formed. It was called IUA then, and Kathy Jones approached me and said, would I like to serve on the board of directors, and the outreach chair was open. So I said, yeah, I guess so. And what do I have to do? And she said, well, just call people and talk to them about the Urantia book or whatever they need, you know, outside what the foundation is doing, because the association was formed to be the working arm of the foundation. And pretty soon, the outreach committee was suddenly changed to the dissemination committee. And I was its chair, and I thought, oh my gosh, this seems like the most important job on the planet, disseminating a epical revelation. But we had a good team, and we started collecting projects. The dissemination committee had several projects. Library placement was one, not in prisons, but in regular libraries. And oh gosh, there were, I don't know, about a half a dozen projects. But PIRT or PIRT, or I have trouble pronouncing it. Originally, we thought about the acronym to use for it, and we went through several, and it was, I think Joyce said that really the prisoners should be called inmates, but IIRT doesn't make a very good acronym. So it ended up being PIRT. The original team was about 3 of us, and we were receiving about 30 requests per month, 1 a day. And we would split those up 3 ways and do like you're doing, contact the inmate and see if they're really sincere, and if we can, get them to pay for the shipping, which is $8. And we thought that was a good way to get the inmate invested in the process, if possible. But we also had a fund that paid for the shipping. So an inmate could get a free book if they qualified, and we felt like they really deserved it. But that system worked well. We got a lot of, some of the letters will really move you. I've got a few samples here if you would like for me to read some of the paragraphs.
Why don't you go ahead and read a few of those? That'd be great.
All right. Let's see. I won't give you the inmate's name. I'll just read the letter. By now, you may have received 3 of the 5 requests for Urantia books from the study group members. They had a study group in prison. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank PIRT for making this possible and for the needed service to the incarcerated that PIRT provides. Our study group went from 4 members to 9 in a short time. Sharing books at the meeting was okay, but cumbersome. Giving out reading assignments was impossible. Let's see. So he got books, and I believe every inmate in that study group got a book, so they wouldn't have to pass them around so much. Another letter was from an inmate who says, around 2 months ago, a friend of mine told me about the Urantia book while we were having a conversation about angels related to Christianity. It was after this conversation that he sent you a request for the book. Since then, he received one, but I'm very interested in obtaining one from your organization too. I am enclosing enough stamps to cover the $8 shipping fee. We used a lot of stamps on our letters, so they came in handy.
That's true.
Go ahead.
And I was just saying that is true. That's great when they do send the stamps.
Yeah. He goes on to say, since he received his copy, I've been completely absorbed in it. To be honest with you, I'm blown away and I don't understand why I've never heard of it before. I read the entire book and I am studying it now. For your information, I was raised Christian, and in spite of some obvious mistakes I made, I've held strong to my faith in Christ. After reading the Urantia book, I was able to separate Christ from theology in a way that I think was possible, that I didn't think was possible, and that has completely changed my life. I can go on, but basically, like I said, I'm blown away and very interested in other people that feel the same way. Thanks for responding to our interest and making it possible to receive the books.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think for time reasons, we probably will move on a little bit now, but I really do appreciate you sharing those with us and being on with me tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Our next PIRT member is Joy Brandt, and she's calling in from Portland, Oregon, I believe. And Joy, would you please share with our viewer audience details of the work you do to process all of the Spanish letters that we receive?
Right. And hi, Rick. Rick was the one who recruited me way back in 2004, I guess it was. And at that time, I was doing English letters. And then some of the Spanish ones started, and I knew Spanish. And so I started answering Spanish mail and did that up until, I guess, around 2012 when I retired and took a wonderful vacation. And so kind of passed off my PIRT responsibilities to someone else. And when I came back a couple of years later to start working with PIRT again, I just started doing Spanish mail. And we don't get that much Spanish mail. I was, actually it sort of has dropped off during that couple of years that I was gone. But I was looking and it's starting to build up again. So I was looking at my stats, and I started back up in 2015, I guess, had like 10 Spanish letters in the whole year. Then in 2016, we had 14. And then like by 2018, we had 19 letters. And then we've had 24 last year. So it's slowly growing again. And I'm just only doing Spanish letters because Spanish is not my first language and it takes me a while to write them. Anyway, so the most of the Spanish letters that we get are because they have seen either someone else has a Spanish Urantia book, or they see a friend who has an English Urantia book and they copy the address out of it, and so they write to the Urantia Foundation, and therefore then the Urantia Foundation sends their all their inmate letters to David Lithicum, and he kind of divides them up between us. So probably the difference between the Spanish letters, I would say, from having done English letters a long time ago, is that they can almost never pay for a book. So we give them a book, and I mean, they can't even cover, send you stamps a lot of times, because they are often here from another country. Like the last letter I got was a guy from El Salvador, and he was like, he didn't have any family here to put money on his books. And I get the impression that if they don't know English, they really can't get jobs in prison, where they earn 25 cents an hour or whatever. So that's one difference. And the other difference is that the Spanish speakers all, they all like believe in God, it seems. And they're all enthusiastic in a sort of a Catholic or Christian kind of way about God and Jesus. And somehow they heard something that the Urantia book has a lot about Jesus. And so that's often their main thing. So I send them, so when I get the letter, like from the letter they had sent to the foundation, I write them back, and oftentimes they'll tell me right in the first letter that they don't have any money or any, they've already heard that we request funding, or we request money to cover the cost of mail. So they'll often tell you right away they don't have it. And they're just interested in Jesus. So they'll write something about Jesus, which is really nice. And they're often, the other thing, a lot of times the English inmates, some of them will write you back after they get their book and tell you, but a lot of times the Spanish readers will write you back and thank you for the book, which is also really nice. They're very polite.
Very appreciative then.
Yeah.
Well, you may have an increase in letters, since a good portion of the books that were placed in the libraries were the Spanish editions.
Right. And one thing that you didn't mention is when Liz Crady did it many years ago, when she seeded those 300 books, she sent them to chaplains. But this time we wanted to try something different. So we sent them to prison librarians, because prisons usually have a chapel library, but they might also then have a regular library. So we're going to see if we get a different response rate or anything based on that.
That's great. Thank you for sharing with that. And I wanted to mention to everyone that Jeanette Schaefer wasn't able to be with us tonight, but she's one of the PIRT team. But she sent in some of her testimonials that Joy and Myrick are going to share with you at this time. Joy, you want to lead that off?
Yes.
Okay.
So Jeanette has also been with PIRT a really long time. I think just about as long as I have. Do you know Rick? Anyway, so she gets a lot of mail. She might do in 1 month what I do in a year practically. But she pulled out a bunch of her favorite paragraphs from letters she's gotten back from her inmates. And this one starts out, this is from a guy in Carson City, Nevada. He says, "The paragraphs explaining the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man deeply touched my soul. Reading it not only confirmed my deep-seated belief that every individual is uniquely precious in the eyes of our Father, she is also irreplaceable and is destined to play an essential role in the ascension scheme. I matter. Me, an inmate, a convicted felon. I mean something to our Father. I am a member of his divine family, and I am an integral part of the divine brotherhood of man. And no one, absolutely no one, can take that away from me. Can you feel what I'm saying? It is amazingly and incredibly beautiful to know that I'm valued by our Father, and that he has done and is doing and will continue to do everything that he divinely can to ensure my opportunity to personality fuse with my thought adjuster and become a meaningful contributor to the universal creation scheme. You can tell he's been reading the Urantia book.
Yes. Okay, Rick.
All right. This comes from a guy in Liberty Correctional Institution in Bristol, Florida. He says, I have spent a large part of my life believing as Christians do. Then I discovered the Messianic Jewish faith and thought I was finally there, where I needed to be, and soon found that I didn't think I could learn any more by reading the Torah over and over again. So I thought and I prayed, and I just knew inside that there had to be something more. Something was calling me. Something inside was telling me that there was so much more out there than what I have known before. At this point in my life, I am incarcerated and live in a large dorm. My bunkmate had a copy of the Urantia book, and I asked if I could check it out. The words just flowed through me, and the more I read, the more I wanted to read. So this is where I am at this time in my life. I am a prisoner, but I feel more free than ever because of what I learn every day from the Urantia book.
Here is one from Arizona State Prison in Florence, Arizona. I'm an inmate at the Arizona Department of Corrections. A fellow inmate who has the Spanish edition of the Urantia book states that this book saved his life by addressing all the questions he had about life, that he experienced a profound resonance of truth the first time he read it. Urantia is his Bible for everyday study.
All right. And then this one is from a man in Pam Lynchner unit in Humble, Texas. A few months ago, another inmate loaned me the Urantia book to read for a day before I was transferred to another place. And that one day, I was only able to read about 100 pages. But those few pages left a powerful, lasting impression on me. The information in the Urantia book is staggering.
Reading 100 pages of the Urantia book in one day is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay, here's one from San Luis Obispo, California, the California Men's Colony State Prison. I have not had anything move me this much since my first realization of the Father, His Son, and the Holy Spirit that resides in me, and the moment I first believed. And then he gives a quote from the Urantia book, and listen to the quote he gives. Man cannot hope to live up to his highest ideals, but he can be true to his purpose of finding God and becoming more and more like him.
All right. And then this one comes from Westville Correctional Facility in Westville, Indiana, which isn't far from us.
No.
This is the most important book I have ever read in my life. This is the only book that has ever changed my life.
And from Norton, Kansas, inmate writes, it's a vital book everyone should have and read daily.
And then this one is from Stafford Creek Correctional Center in Aberdeen, Washington. The Urantia book is simply amazing. It will expand my personal experiential attainment. It is a magnificent guide tool for anyone whom reads it.
And from Graceville, Florida, Correctional Facility, I have read all the life and teachings of Jesus. I couldn't read it fast enough. All the details of his early life are amazing.
And then this one is from Franklin Correctional Institution in Carabel, Florida. I ran across your book, Urantia, and I am very impressed in reading it. I definitely agree with the concepts and believe that it was meant for me to read it in full.
From Imperial, California, Centennial State Prison. The Urantia book is a gift to anyone's life and should be read, studied by every soul before moving on.
And the next one's from Graceville Correctional Facility in Graceville, Florida. Wow, what a book. I've read 5 translations of the Bible 12 times. None of those readings moved me half as much as the Urantia book has.
And from Chuckawalla Valley State Prison in Blythe, California. We get a lot of mail from there. I am utterly fascinated and experientially validated by the material in the Urantia book, as well as deeply humbled and greatly inspired.
And the next one's from the WIN unit in Huntsville, Texas. I had received it, the Urantia book, just a few weeks ago, and my readings in this book have been awesome. Something within me has always told me there was so much more to what I've learned so far in life.
And from New Boston, Texas, this book, Urantia, has given me a new perspective on life and shown me new realities that I didn't know existed.
And this one is from the California Men's Colony State Prison, San Luis Obispo, California. I've personally seen the truths of our existence move inmates' spirits and open their minds to the dimensions of God's love and the impact it's had on our universe, and it shows through them. So once more, I want to thank everyone at PIRT.
Thank you both. I think it's great that they're quoting our Urantia book terminology back to us.
I know, experientially validated.
Definitely. That's great. Okay, thanks so much. Next, I'd like to take a little break in the testimonials and read to you something from Agnes Lazar in Belgium. And we met at a conference not too long ago, and she was talking to me about her ministry in prisons in Europe. And I wasn't even involved in PIRT at the time, but I was inspired by what she told me. And I know Joy goes into prison and actually has study group with prisoners. There are many.
And Jeanette too.
And Jeanette, and many people are doing this. And this is her experience in Belgium. And she wrote me, she wanted to be on, but it was 3 a.m. for her. And it's about her ministry in prison in Belgium. It all started just a year ago. The school in which I teach English and stress management was approached by a prison in the region with the aim of expanding their training offer to male prisoners who want to expand their knowledge and practices in the diversified fields and thus increase their chance of social and professional reintegration as soon as they get out. I accepted the challenge because of what it was at first, convinced that God was offering me a special opportunity to serve even more. The news having arrived a few weeks before the beginning of my teaching activities, I prayed a lot that the participants to the courses would be thirsty souls for God, and that I may be an instrument of His peace and a channel of His love by which God manifests Himself and will be manifested. The days before the beginning of this activity, I was overwhelmed by multiple emotions, including the fear of confinement and the doubt of my ability to see prisoners as sons of God. To be conscious that the person is not his behavior and that everyone is inhabited by a divine fragment, which is the individualization of the Father's love for His creatures, was of great help to me. On March 6th, 2017, the experience began. I entered this place devoid of human warmth, harmony, comfort, sweetness, joy, tolerance, and love. This place is an obvious consequence of the failure of an entire society that neglects the core values of family and education. I immediately realized the will of God to be with me, work through me and in me, to humbly serve my fellow men. Fear dissolves instantly, giving way to the reception, without barriers, of these men between 20 and 45 years old, eager for evolution. Very quickly, this course of 40 hours of stress management becomes the learning ground for self-knowledge and self-awareness on a human level, favoring and increasing the moral values essential to acquire and develop for the birth of the Urantia man. Regularly, I repeated to them, the doors of the prison are closed. However, you can open the doors of your conscience and observe the effects. I told them that I prayed for them and that others were praying for them too. The members of the Descartes group, the members of the Circle of Conscience that I have been leading for 15 years, and also Guy of Canada. They all accept with great enthusiasm all these prayers, surprised by all this devotion to them, as though they no longer feel worthy of any consideration. The stress management course takes, in less than 3 meetings, a turn that I did not expect. God is really at the center of our sharing. Muslims, Protestants, Catholics all agreed. God lives within them, and they wanted to know him. On June 14th, an additional step is taken. People participating and working in the circle of conscience and trust, relying on the incomparable teachings of the Urantia book, accompanied me to prison. This meeting created a real shift in everyone. The external actors experienced the immediate dissolution of their prejudices related to the prisoners. They realized how much they existed in the minds and hearts of these strangers, and that with God, in God, and by God, we are all truly brothers and sisters in the Spirit. The 2.5-hour session is lived in an atmosphere of joy, peace, harmony, mutual respect, conviviality, to the point that we all forget that we are in this place called prison. Since then, the prison director has given me permission to maintain the circle of conscience and trust on Sunday mornings as a voluntary work and to be accompanied by anyone wishing to participate. Since the end of October, Guy is with us and enhances, through his experience, the quality of the exchanges. Our Senegalese brothers shared written prayers that deeply moved our brothers in prison and deeply touched them in their beautiful and good expanding souls. A fraternity has been created and is evolving. Thank you, God, for living within each of us by your divine presence and making all this Urantia brotherhood possible. I thought it was a beautiful letter of her experience. So, my testimonials, these are some of the letters I've received in this past year, and I wanted to share some of them with you. If you have any questions, just stop me.
I think somebody had a chat thing there for you.
Okay. Well, I think there's 47 of them. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I probably
Okay.
don't know. Put a hand up, though, if you want to say anything, okay? Okay. We're told in the Urantia book that on a confused and disordered planet like ours, the realization of the worldwide brotherhood of man is not an easy accomplishment. Such an achievement requires a much longer time and necessitates far greater effort. Religious revelation is essential to the realization of brotherhood. So this is part of the reason I believe that the Urantia book is a very important tool in lifting up the lives of these inmates in prison. And I believe it's going to transform lives. I've already heard from many of these fellows. Okay, from Travis in Trenton, New Jersey. Thanks so much. And Travis is 22 years old. Thanks so much for the time and letter. My conscience is clearer now that I can acquire more information. I'm very happy that I stumbled upon this much extraordinary book. I purchased a beautiful copy of the Urantia book, and I must say, this read is not like any book I ever picked up before. Hopefully one day it will be in the hands of every person looking for wisdom. And from Brian in Abilene, Texas. I'm a 70-year-old male coming to the long-awaited end of a 20-year prison sentence. In these years, I've searched for answers to life's questions pertaining to God, our purpose for being here, and what to expect when this incarnation is done. When I was on my way to this unit some 6 or 7 months back, I got into a conversation with another inmate, and he mentioned the Urantia book to me. When I got here, I had the book sent to me. The book surely opened my mind to concepts I had never thought of at all. I found it very interesting, but there was so much information crammed into each paragraph that I was quickly placed in overload. I'm not a very religious person, but I strive to be as spiritual as my knowledge will allow. Every door I open leads me closer to my Creator. The Urantia book has been a large step in that direction. Keep the faith, and we'll continue to bring light into the darkness. From Kendrick in Amarillo, Texas. I'm incarcerated here in the state of Texas because of a mistake made in my ignorance. Still, there is much knowledge and wisdom to gain behind these walls. I was blessed and able to come across the great Urantia book by a friend who was only able to let me borrow it. There was so much to take in that it was impossible for me to do so in the short time I was able to borrow the book. I know that nothing is free in this materialistic world. What I'm asking for is anything that will help me further my understanding. From Dennis in Pinckneyville, Illinois. Studying and trying to learn about this incredible book without having an overwhelming amount of questions seems almost impossible. Does your association have study guides or ministers that can help guide me through how to study this book? Because certainly it's not a book to simply be read like a novel. Please provide information on who I can contact once I'm released so that I may continue my journey, as well as any other information you can send me about this fascinating religion. From Daniel in Tennessee Colony, Texas. I read a few pages of a book that another inmate had, but was not able to keep the book for any reasonable period of time. I found the few pages I read very interesting and intriguing. From Michael in Coldwater, Michigan, family. He's calling us family, isn't that sweet? I was studying the Urantia book with a friend who transferred. My interest was deeply affected, and I'd like to continue my studies, but without prospect of being able to purchase my own book, I would greatly appreciate any assistance given, and I will share and study with others. From Brandon in Abilene, Texas. I'm pleased to tell you that I have read the book in its entirety. I would like to receive an application and also any other materials to help a fellow truth seeker. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping me with this endeavor. From Russell in Waupun, Wisconsin. And Russell is quite an artist. He always decorates his letters beautifully. And by the way, my name that I chose as my letter writing name, my alias, is Evan Todd. So I'm waiting for one of these guys to pick that up in the book and call me on it. Anyway, so Russell says, so often has it been the case that outsiders have turned a blind eye to the sincere spiritual seeking prisoner. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to know that the association has the PIRT team to help inmates on their quest for higher understanding. I must tell you that my study group is a group of 10 who hold the Urantia book as a true and relevant revelation for our time. So they have a study group of 10 people in his prison. From Aaron in El Dorado, Kansas. I just got my book. Keep in mind, I've only had my book for a week, but I'm a huge fan of ancient alien theory and a Christian. So far, I love, in caps, the Urantia book. What I'm asking is, can you donate a copy to the El Dorado Correctional Central Library? I know dozens of people that I know would love to read it. Please, in caps. So that was one of the prison libraries that we did send a book to. From Vincent in Westover, Maryland. I have been a Urantia student for about 5 years now. I would like to correspond with someone, and if there are lessons or courses, I would like to sign up for them. I do not have internet access, just snail mail. Thank you so much for being such a positive influence in my life. So some of these guys are actually have begun to take our Urantia Book Internet School courses through the mail. From Lance in Bonne Terre, is it Bonne Terre or Bonnie Terre, Joy? Bonnie Terre? Bonne Terre? Anyway, Missouri. I just read a page from your book, and I am one page, and I am so impressed. It says, a friend of mine at church had one. I know this book will further my growth in Christ because I am definitely a truth seeker. God bless your ministry. And this is from Jan in Salem, Oregon. And I believe Jan maybe enjoys study group.
Yes, he's a great guy.
Yeah. Okay, so Jan says, I have spent over half of my life in prison, 37 years. The Urantia book arrived at the same time as your letter. Both were warmly received. Since receiving the book, I find myself so fascinated and enthralled by the text that I am unable to read much else. For background, I have studied Bible scripture intently for the better part of 25 years of the 37 that I've been incarcerated, so I know it pretty well. When I first received a loaner copy of the Urantia book from our chapel, I did indeed start from the beginning. As I progressed, things began to fall into place and make sense. Presently, I'm in paper 85. I did have many questions, but I've discovered if I'm patient and keep reading, I will find the answers. How many times have we said in study group, and we all discuss it, and then 2 paragraphs later, we get the answer that we just discussed for 10 minutes, but it's so true. I can honestly say that while I love the Bible, I have outgrown it or evolved beyond it. I think the time is coming. Mankind will begin waking up to truth. The Urantia book takes all the pressure off the worry over the salvation concept. We are all on the ascension journey. All will arrive on the first mansion world and be able to choose to go on. Personally, I can't wait to see what's next and next and next. I've been an insatiable explorer from very young, which is why this prison time has been so difficult for me. But then I discovered the unexplored frontier of within. And oh my, what a journey that has been, a never-ending journey. The Urantia book has merely taken it to the next level. The powers that be have seen fit to release me and fixed a tentative release date of Good Friday in April of 2021. It's been a very long haul. I am optimistic at 67 years old with my health being great and the future bright. Again, thank you so much for both the book and your letter. And my last one is from Colin in Lakeview, Oregon. Hello, Urantians. My name is Colin, and I'm an inmate at Warner Creek Correctional Facility. A friend of mine lent me a copy of the Urantia book at my last institution, and it really sparked my interest. But when I was transferred here, the library didn't have a copy. So I saved up my money from washing dishes and ordered a copy last month. I've been so happy reading it, and I wanted to write this letter to say thank you for making my time go so well. I read constantly, and the Urantia book has become a huge part of my nightly routine. I recently got accepted to Southern Oregon University and will be attending this coming winter, 2020. Very exciting. I've been inspired by the Urantia book in my writing lately. I've taken up creative writing and have submitted a couple of pieces to publishers. I was curious if there are any Urantians out there in the Ashland, Oregon area. I want to reach out. I will have read the whole book by the end of September. Thanks again for the inspiration. I feel more at ease every day when more is revealed to me every night in this great book. Wish me luck. I'm going to attack college with a whole new mindset and understanding that I hope to bring to everything I do. the Urantia book. I owe a lot of credit to the foundation for inspiring me to pursue higher education again. I was in a very depressive slump in prison until I began reading the Urantia book. It has rekindled my love for the Father, and I have taken back up the faith in myself to get back to school and finish my degree. I am, in caps, worth it. And there is a loving Father out there that wants me to believe in myself and us and use my mind that he gave me and to challenge myself intellectually. Thank you for the love and the light. In closing, I want to thank everyone for your attention. And if there are any questions, while we have Rick or Joy here, they can give you any questions you have on the history, or if you're interested in what you might be able to do to get involved. If you're interested in this type of ministry, this kind of service, we're here for you. And I think we have a few minutes left. So I'll open it up to anyone that wants to ask anything.
Well, if I could just add a couple of comments. One, you might make it clear that people can donate money to PIRT to help pay for the books that get sent out. And, you know, I'm kind of on the sidelines with this thing, watching what Susan does with it. But I can tell you that I don't, you know, we've been involved with Urantia projects for a long time, but I don't think I've seen any project that has such tangible rewards as the PIRT program. I mean, these letters that she gets and all the team gets from these inmates, they just, sometimes they're just move you to tears. I mean, just hearing these guys and what the book has done for them. But the effort that's put into this produces real tangible results that we can document here. It's a great program.
I did put a button on my Facebook page that if you want to make a donation for PIRT, it will go straight to them for this weekend, I think. So if you want to go to my Facebook page, it is, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll post it on the chat right now so you can see it if you want to find me there. And we've already had a couple of donations, actually. I'll post it for you right now. And I would say too that even a donation of $15 would pay for shipping and the book, all for an inmate, and save them from having to
Wash dishes for a book.
Well, and that's fine if they do. And I think he was proud of himself for doing that, honestly. Sure. But some of them don't have the resources to do a job in prison either. So sometimes it helps, or they don't have stamps to even send stamps. Chris, do you have a question?
I have a question.
Hi there, Alice. How are you?
My name's not on the thing, but I'm Alice Wood. So I guess I'm just kind of curious of the people who write to you. Do you find that most of them are serving very extended sentences or life sentences, or are many of them, you know, serving a couple of years and then they're able to come out and become a part of the community?
I think they're longer term. You know, they're, it seems like they're at least in for 10 years or something like that. And maybe that's how long they have to be in order to kind of become friends with someone. And they go through a process, really, a sort of first being angry, you know, that they got caught. And
it's a soul searching process.
Yeah.
Then, yeah. I will say that it's been a variety for me. I haven't seen anyone that is on death row, thankfully. But Colin, the last one I read to you, has actually been released. So he's out and he was accepted. He sent me his acceptance letter from college and asked if he could stay in touch. So
great, because there are people in the Ashland area who have a study group.
Great. Well, next time he writes, I'll let him know that.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with you about it.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you, Susan, for the wonderful presentation. This is your 5-minute break. Go get some water, go to the bathroom, grab some food. We're in it for the long haul. And every 3 hours or so, we will be trading off hosting duties. So Ian Campbell shall have the room for the next session. So thank you, Ian. And in about 5 minutes, you will restart it.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you being with us tonight.
Good job.
God bless. Stay safe.